Right now, let's start, and other people can join. I keep right. I've just pulled up my note, which is something you will have all seen, which was the note that I sent out in the email, which said marketing Tai Chi in the modern world. Tai Chi instructors face the challenge of communicating the value of Tai Chi in a way that resonates with today's audiences. While its benefits are wide ranging, blah, 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 these advantages are often not well understood by the general public. Our discussion will discuss and share strategies for making Tai Chi more visible, hi Glenda, and accessible in the modern world. So I had this great plan, and that was part of the great plan. And if my computer hadn't died, um, I might have actually had time yesterday to sit down and think and prepare. But of course, because my computer died, I didn't. So I will just do something completely ad hoc to start the thing going, and then we can all join in. Um, let's start by maybe just quickly going round and finding out how people market their wares. How do people, Kerrison, how do people know? Sorry, Kerrison, what do you teach? If everybody does this, actually, what do you teach? Where do you teach it? Who, whom, who, I can never remember. Who do you teach it to? And how do you spread the word? If you don't mind starting, Kerrison, we'll dump that on you.
No, that's absolutely fine. I've been teaching Tai Chi for almost 40 years now, and learning Tai Chi back in the 1980s inspired me to go off and spend every penny I had on 4 years of working 80 hours a week to become an osteopath, so that I understood biomechanics in order to understand what Tai Chi is and how it works from a point of view of physiology and biomechanics. And so since then, I've treated more than 8,000 people and really spent all that time, my entire career, sort of working on understanding what Tai Chi is and how it works and why it works from a viewpoint of anatomy and physiology and biomechanics. And on that basis, I've also designed a system I call Tyrobics, which is I've designed a very, very simplified 12 move sequence, which can then be developed into used as the basis for also doing cardio and fat burn workout, as well as getting all the benefits of body awareness and coordination and posture and breathing and so on and everything that comes with ordinary Tai Chi. So I teach this system I call Tyrobics. I teach classes in Petersfield and just around the corner from where I live here. I continue doing clinical work as well. So I do full health and fitness assessments for people. And that's really what I'm focused on. My main thing is my website, tyrobics.co.uk. But I also have links with the website with the complementary medicine center where I teach my main classes. So I'm delighted that I discovered, because someone told me that when they did a search on Tai Chi Petersfield, I came up at the top of the list, which was great. So I was very pleased with that. But that was through the Center for Complementary Medicine, which was good. So I do that. I also do a lot of leafleting, and I do a lot of word of mouth, and I also do quite a lot through my clinical work of patients, just telling them about, right, okay, well, actually, we really need to start looking into your body awareness and your posture and your movement and your breathing and so on. So come along to my aerobics classes and we'll take it from there. So that's the main things I do.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Kerrison. Gordon, would you like to who, what, where, and when?
Gordon Ross, teaching for 15 years, doing the Tai Chi and Qigong for 30, trying to bring the two together because I think there's loads of divisions out there at the moment, loads of fractions, segmentation, people going off in lots of different directions. And it just seems to me that if you bring them two back together, which is what I do with my classes, you get amazing health benefits and lots of um, satisfied students. So, in a nutshell, that's about it.
And how do you spread the word, Gordon?
Started teaching to U3A classes and then local authority. So teach 6 or 7 classes a week, and increasingly trying to get YouTube videos out there as well to basically promote the basics and do it really well. Just looking at Healing Our Earth as well at the same time as this one, because there's a Healing Our Earth session about Tai Chi and Qigong, which hopefully most people would know about. And it's the second in the series that they've done. So I think that could be an interesting route going forward.
Colin, would you care to unmute?
Yeah, sure. So I I teach Tai Chi and Qigong, and I have done for 35 years. I studied classical Chinese medicine back in the 80s, and I've had a career as a professor of natural sciences. So I tend to draw together my understanding of science with my understanding of Tai Chi and Qigong from various schools. I suppose my principal influences have been Bruce Francis, American guy a lot of people are familiar with, so I've studied with him on an annual basis since 2000, 2003, something like that. But I've also been a senior trainer with Paul Lamb's organization, the Tai Chi for Health Institute, with his programs of simplified adapted Tai Chi for health. My main sort of route to promotion is word of mouth. I've taught U3A and I've taught local authority, and through that I'm known locally. So I don't really advertise locally. I also teach classes at a university, and they do all the promotion, so I'm not involved in that at all. I would say my own personal experience of promotion via online, be it by social media or paid advertising or whatever, is yes, it hooks people, but the people that come to my classes through word of mouth recommendation tend to stay. Whereas the people who see something online, whether it's a social media advert or some other sort of online content, they very often come along once or twice and that's it. I don't ever see them again. So it's almost like the word of mouth personal recommendation. People get a clear picture of what you do, why you do it, how you do it, and what the benefits are, whereas they can't actually get that information from most advertising, and most people don't have time to read a website. That's a quick summary.
Thank you, Colin.
What part of the world are you in, Colin?
I'm in the Peak District, but I work not only in the Peak District in Derbyshire, but also in Greater Manchester.
Thank you for interjecting there, Gordon. That's useful. John Roper, would you care to unmute?
Yeah. Okay. Hi. To be perfectly honest, these days I don't do a great deal of promotion. I've got about 10 students, but I don't one class. I don't teach Tai Chi to make money. It's just basically a hobby, and you know, I sort of do it for nothing, apart from paying for the hall that I hire. I've got a website. Most of the people, it's pretty well optimized, and most of the people that come to me generally come through that. Sometimes you tell them what it's all about and you never hear from them again. Sometimes you tell them nothing and they'll but the thing, I've got about 10 students right now, but one of them's been with me as long as I've been teaching, which is about 15 years. I've been practicing Tai Chi for just over 20. So a bit of a new boy, I think, from that point of view. But others who've been with me 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and there's always a big wash through. Those that I have now, I will expect some of them to disappear and others to join me. But as I say, I used to do a newsletter, and that generally produced a few people. But lockdown and a few health issues, I just sort of just stopped doing it, and I still seem to always have the same number of students. So, you know, it works for me.
And sorry, you're based where, John?
Oh, well, I live in Woodford Green, sort of East London. My class is just up the road in Buckhurst-Hill, which is Essex. And I'm on various websites. Tai Chi Union, for instance, have got me listed, although they haven't discovered that I'm no longer a member because I didn't pay my fee this year. But they'll get around to it, and one or two other sites like that. But I've never found any of it made any difference. Pretty well everybody I get finds me through Google. And I'm on YouTube as well. But most of the stuff I've got on YouTube, we did a whole series. My daughter and I did a whole series of the form. I teach Yang 108, by the way, and all aspects of that: self-defense, and for health, we do Qigong. But we did a sort of breakdown of the form, one move at a time, once a week during lockdown. Students still use that as a way to practice. And I think there's a video somewhere of me doing the whole form, which one of my students took and put up there. But as I say, generally speaking, people find me through my website.
Thank you. Robert.
When I started teaching, which was about over 50 years ago, people didn't know what Tai Chi was, and I would do a demonstration, and I'd put up notices that I was going to do a demonstration. I'd show a film. It was a film of my first teacher, Cheng Min Ching, and I'd lug a heavy 16 millimeter projector and a screen and everything, and then enroll students who were interested. And I do the demonstration a week before, exactly at the same time that the class would be, so that if they could come to the demonstration, that meant they would also be able to come to the class, more or less. Now what I do is I put up flyers which look like this. They're trifold flyers. Not very. It opens up and looks like, I'll show you. Can I spotlight? I'm sorry, share screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you?
Disabled.
Let me see. Sorry, because this is a...
You need to make him co-host if he's going to share.
Who can share? All participants. There we go. Anybody can share now.
Okay.
You should be able to share, Robert.
Here it is. Okay. This is the I don't see it. Oh, there it is. This is the front of the flyer with a picture of me when I was a little younger, description of myself, etc., and the seal that we had, that I showed before. And the other is, I'll share the screen again, the inside of the flyer. And I print it up, and what I do is I fold it up, and then it's description of Tai Chi, Qigong, which I also teach, and combine it with the class. And then what I do is I make these index cards with paper clips, and I glue the back so the paper clip is stationary, and I assemble the flyers on it. Well, first I staple it onto the use thumbtacks to a bulletin board in a supermarket or every place I can find, and I leave them there. I'm surprised nobody has ever copied this way of advertising. And that's all the advertising I do. I don't pay for any ads or anything like that. And it's mostly word of mouth and these flyers. And my videos have seemed to have, that I have on YouTube at this point, I have 137, seem to have attracted a lot of people. My website also is something. And let's see, I have Zoom classes which originated during COVID, and if anybody asks me about it, I'll let them come to the class. But I don't teach beginners on Zoom, except for maybe people who I do correction classes on Zoom for private classes. And I'm not looking for a huge number of students. I'm looking for really dedicated people, and a lot of people come and never come back, but I have students who have been with me on the order of 30 years, and some of them have gotten quite advanced. They do the short form, the long form, the sword form, the staff form, the broadsword form, the two-person form, bagua, two bagua forms. One of them is a fan form. And they've done all the things that I have to teach, and are now learning some self-defense aspects. And well, that's it.
Lovely. Thank you for that. Glenda, do I remember that you don't actually teach? I can't remember, sorry. You're muted at the moment.
Yes, that's true. I don't actually teach. I do try to get people to study Tai Chi, though. And an interesting thing started happening a few years ago. I have a...
But sorry to interrupt. Can you just say where you are? And
Oh, of course.
sorry, my apologies. I forgot for Robert to say that. Robert, I know you're somewhere in America.
Yeah, I'm in about 20 miles above New York City.
Wherever New York is, who knows? Sorry, back to you, Glenda. Thank you, Robert.
Oh, and I also live in the United States, and I live on the east end out in the boondocks of Long Island. I guess about, I don't know, what would you say, Robert? I don't know how many miles, probably at least 100 or something miles out of New York City. But so I don't actually teach Tai Chi, but an interesting thing started happening a few years ago. I have a GP who practices preventive medicine, and every time I come for an appointment, she usually has a resident or a medical student, and she asks us if it's okay if she leaves them alone with me for a little bit, so I can tell them all about Tai Chi and the benefits of it. And some of them have actually asked me to give a demo and show them because she is preventative, and actually that's how I learned about Tai Chi and found Bob. I think she wants her students also to incorporate that into their practice when they become doctors, on their own. So, and if I eventually can or have it, I do think I'm getting to the point where I feel like I may be able to teach. But I myself I was thinking about it. I would promote Tai Chi. It's not just for health, it's really a way of life. It's affected every aspect of my life since I started studying it. And it's it's a way of getting through life in better condition and mental health. So I'd have to think how I would word something like that. But it's not about learning the form. It's actually learning the form itself, which is the benefit, the practice of it. So anyhow, I appreciate all your teachers because it's just helping that many more people in the world. So that's basically right now what I do. And I try to show my friends and my sisters, anyone who's willing, to listen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Glenda. Brian Cook, if you care to unmute.
Yeah.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm not teaching at the moment, and haven't done several years now. When I did, when I first started, advertising wasn't something I needed to worry about because I was teaching for the Isle of Man College, so they handled all of that. And paid.
Sorry, you're based where, Brian?
Somerset.
Somerset.
Then a couple of years on, I also ran independent classes, so did that with trifold flyers like Roberts and just dropped them in key places. Then when I started teaching in Devon, I did the same thing with the flyers and put a few posters up in the village. And that was enough to get a few people interested, and then word of mouth did it a bit more from there. But never gone heavily for advertising.
Okay, thank you. David Chandler.
Good morning, everybody. Yes. So my name is David Chandler. I would say I have probably, I'm just guessing, about 150 students currently. I have my way of attracting the students has been different at different times. I've been doing Tai Chi for over 50 years, started teaching about 45 years ago in small. When I moved to New York, I was invited to lead I was a professional actor right out of college, and they saw what I was doing for my warm-ups and started having me do warm-ups for everybody else in the group. And then pretty soon that led to people coming to me for private sessions, and then that led to group classes. I never intended to be a teacher, but that's what I do for a living now, completely, pretty much, and hypnosis. I taught stage combat, and Tai Chi certainly helped that tremendously and changed the way I choreographed fight scenes for shows. And I did that throughout the United States and certainly here in the Northeast. Taught for a number of universities here in Connecticut. I'm in Waterford, Connecticut, which is near the Coast Guard Academy and Pfizer and the sub base in Groton. And I have taught the SWAT team here in this city a number of years back. I teach a Parkinson's class currently, and I teach a number of classes for senior centers and places like that. And one of the things that we do to stir interest in Tai Chi is periodically we go to public libraries and I do a demonstration and a talk. And that's a great way to connect with people directly. And the libraries do the advertising for that. And then we guide people who are interested to our public classes, because I teach a number of classes that are for like assisted living places and Hartford Healthcare and places like that. I used in the beginning, and one of the things that's probably the most effective are just cards with a picture of me and our address and information, because you can hand them out to anybody. You can leave them at places. We have used the trifold throughout time, but we don't do it regularly, but periodically we do. We used to use postcards to send them out to prospective clients who might have contacted us. We've got a website, Eagles Quest Tai Chi Center, or eaglesquesttaichi.com. That's our website. People can see advertising and information that way. I think one of the most effective things, of course, is as I think it was Colin that said this earlier about word of mouth. We tell people, okay, class is coming up. Tell your friends, ask your friends if they want to join, because it's a lot more fun to have people to play with. in your neighborhood and people who you get together with. And so that is generally encouraging. Although some of the students like a smaller class, but I always tell them if it's too small, we can't pay the bills. And so that seems to be one of the best things. And actually, fairly, a decent sized sign, sometimes a sandwich board in front of one of the spaces at the synagogue where I teach. There's a sandwich board with our information on it, and that's very effective. People drive by and they say, "Oh, I've driven past your sign a lot," and they use that. Um, and so we do that at all of the places where we teach publicly. We have a sign out, sometimes just a small yard sign, but that's very effective. And then we also have YouTubes with lots of different things over time that we've done. And so we have on occasion, I think, used Facebook, but one of the primary things is that face to face. And if I'm out on the in the city doing some running around for my wife to grab things for the groceries or whatever, then one of the things that's very effective is we have a magnet sign on the two sides of my car that has our Eagles Quest logo and Tai Chi listed, my name and phone number, and that has been very effective over time. And I would say that's because that one moves around. That's a moving sign. I think the signs are really excellent, and so people stop me literally in the parking lots of a lot of places, and that's why having a card is helpful, because then they can just hand them a card and so forth. So I would say that's kind of it in a nutshell for what we do. It's kind of we at different times use different ways of connecting, but the signs are probably, I would say, are signs, word of mouth, cards have been the most effective for us. We don't do a lot of advertising. Periodically, we might put something out. We do flyers. We hand out flyers in class and say, hand these to your friends if you want to come to a workshop. So for special workshops and so forth. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, I would say. And I teach a combined style, long form, and then I also teach Sun style, and we do several short forms there. Periodically, I bring into my advanced group Sun style Sancho, and we do push hands. We do when the weather is nice, we can be outside. We do staff work. We do staff form periodically. We do double sword form. We do sticks. We do a whole series of stick dances, stick exercises. One that was based on what Master Joe taught me. He didn't use sticks, we used hands, but I turned it into a stick exercise. And then what we lump them all under what's called Tibetan sticks, because that was the first stick exercise that I had learned. And they're training devices for learning how to wield stick or sword. And so we do a number of those. And I usually do those at World Tai Chi Day. We usually participate in World Tai Chi Day, which hopefully everybody had a chance to connect with people yesterday. Unfortunately, here in Connecticut, it rained all day. So my wife said, "No, you're not going." And because it was going to have everybody under a tiny tent, and we have so many teachers that gather here in Connecticut. We were the largest gathering in the country here in the U.S. at one point. But we got eclipsed by New York City, someplace in a little ways away from us. Anyway, we're about halfway between Boston and New York, and so World Tai Chi Day is a great way to connect. Although to some extent, I would say it's a little bit like preaching to the choir, because everybody brings their students, and so we see other students from other teachers and so forth, and we're not out to like steal students from each other or anything like that. But there's some crossover that occurs that way. And occasionally there'll be new people there. And that's what we're really looking for with World Tai Chi Day, is to gain more people in. So that's, I think that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Peter Kay, do you care to unmask and share with us?
I'm trying to unmask, but I'm not quite sure how to do it.
There should be a little symbol called video down on the left-hand side of your screen. If
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not that. It's just there we go. There we go.
there you are. In
Ah,
all your glory, sir. Please introduce yourself.
okay. So my name is Peter. I live in Melton Mowbray, which is in the middle of England. I teach 2 classes a week. One is ostensibly U3A, but not entirely. That's a combination of short form and Qigong exercises. It's about half an hour. I also teach a longer class, 45 minutes, which is mainly focused on the long form. But again, I use Qigong exercises within the context of that class to help people get prepared and engaged, and as a sort of leaving experience as well. I don't make a living out of Tai Chi. I do any proceeds I take go to charity because I'm the age I am. I'm able to do that. In terms of publicising, I think one of the most important things is actually running the classes. When you want the classes to be run. So that's.
Sorry, you're breaking up. Did your earpiece come out or something?
Yeah.
Ah.
Is it back in now?
Yes, sir.
Sorry. I'm just about to get to a seat, so I might sit down. So in terms of publicising classes, I tried various things, including Facebook and giving people cards and stuff like that. Word of mouth is probably the biggest thing. But the other thing that we've now got in the UK are 2 kind of health and local authority vehicles. One, the local authority run in terms of publicising sports access for people. So I have my classes on there and myself on there. And I find that I do get people through that medium. The second thing is the NHS, the National Health Service in England, runs a social prescribing app. So social prescribing is where people are recommended to do things that are healthy for them via their GP. And the Joy app, as it's called, is a vehicle for you to publicise your offers in terms of Tai Chi or whatever it is that you might be doing. And then people can be referred to you from health professionals, GPs, physios, whatever. I find that's also a useful medium. So they're probably the 2 most important things, I'd say, apart from making sure your Tai Chi classes when people want to turn up, or if you don't, then they won't. Okay.
Thank you.
That's me.
Thank you very much, Peter. Billy, do you want to unmask and?
I was hoping you were. I was hoping you didn't see my name up there. Okay. I see I'm among the elite here, so I'll make it brief. So anyway, let me see. What can I share? I live here in the U.S. the state of Pennsylvania. My Tai Chi journey started at the Tai Chi farm with the master Yo Samwa. That was probably almost 30 years ago. I don't really use the word teaching because I don't consider myself a teacher. So I use the word, I like to share what I think I've learned up to this point. I've been sharing after I would say probably the last 25 years, maybe 20 years. So up here in Pennsylvania, I have a place here, 100 acres. It's out in the boonies. It's up in the mountains, and it's very nice. And I kind of nicknamed it Hidden Gardens because it is hidden. And when I left New York, Warwick, where I used to live, when Master Joe passed on, I come here, and I didn't have anyone else to really teach me, so I went into the local town at the wellness center, and that's where they were doing yoga and things like that, and asked them if they did Tai Chi here, and they said no. Never. There's no teacher for miles, and I said that's sad. They asked if they knew about where, and I guess the closest would have been Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour from here. So anyway, they asked me, what I did do. I said, well, I'm learning Tai Chi, and they said, oh, good, you can become the teacher. Okay. I said, I don't know about that yet. Oh yeah. I said, no, I don't think so. I said, well, this show what you know, and that's what I did do. I think, and I don't really like teaching because I'm very shy about it, and I don't think I'm very good at it. So I was hesitant, but I did, and that's how one of the ways the word got out that there was someone in the area that was teaching. But I've never have and never will. I never had advertised. I just did, because I said I didn't want to be a teacher in the first place. So, but over the years, I would have to say that over the lifetime of my study, I probably have had about maybe 50 people that I share Tai Chi with. That's about all I had from that. From Hidden Gardens was most of that, maybe 25, 30. Most of them are still with me, even 25, 20 years later. And they came from word of mouth. Nobody, never, like they say, never advertised. I've had shared my Tai Chi. I'm wearing a shirt right now that has one at a karate center. They asked me if I could, show that to anybody that was interested in Tai Chi. So I did do that, and I did a lot of, I would say a lot of Tai Chi sharing with senior centers, things of that nature. I've done with some of my, I don't call them students, I call them Tai Chi cranes. We have done demonstrations of our form in public areas and sword forms as well. That's a couple of the other good things that I've learned. I'm a big component of learning how to keep, my biggest teacher, believe it or not, is called the Tai Chi diagram, the symbol that's behind the two. I've learned so much just by studying that, and that's what Master Joe gave me as a gift to study, is that everything you need to know is in the Tai Chi diagram. And that's the history, the arts, the martial arts of it, the meditations, and so on. It's all there. And so that's been my study. And now I'm up here, again, here in Pennsylvania, and I don't have many students now because most of them, so it's whatever's left here, have gone and moved across the countries, whatever. And so I do a Zoom class to reach them, so that we continue. But so that's in a nutshell. There's not much more I can offer, but thank you for asking.
Thank you. No, thank you, Billy. I mean, to try and...
Do you want to tell us about you, Robert?
Yeah, sure. Based in a small town called Rushton in Northamptonshire, in England. We've all got access to Google Maps, so you can find me if you need me. I have been doing Tai Chi since the late 1970s, with breaks, with other arts. I teach what I call mainly modern Tai Chi, and by that I mean things that you can trace back to the 20th century. So Yang style, 24 form, and various derived forms from that, some of which I've derived, one of which was derived by an Australian gentleman whose name has completely escaped me at the moment. I study when I can with other people. I'm a huge believer in continued professional development. For the first January, February, March, first 3 months of this year, I actually was studying via Zoom with the son of my first instructor. My first instructor was Earl Montague of the World Tai Chi Boxing Association. Before he was Earl Montague of the World Tai Chi, in those days he was Earl Derby. He was an aspiring actor. He was teaching me, he was learning the Long Yang form from Chu King Hung in London, and I was learning it. I've learned some of Lee's style, that's LEE style, the style that was taught in this country, maybe created, I don't know, by a gentleman called Chi Su, otherwise known as Clifford Gibb. He was Chinese, but he was raised in an orphanage and given an English name, hence the Clifford Gibb, but Chi Su was his Chinese name. And funnily enough, today, I did a presentation or a demonstration and a bit of teaching of Tai Chi to a group of people, some of whom are, there's a village nearby and there's a group of people, and they sort of, as far as I understand it, they've twinned up for some years with a village in France, and they go over to France and French people come over here. So I was doing a session this morning for a group of people, some English, some French. And one of the people there had trained in Lee's style. I've trained a little bit in Sun's style. I did a couple of years, 2 and a bit years of Chen's style. I tend to steal things. If I see something I like, I will incorporate that in what I do. I am not a traditionalist, mainly because I have yet to be convinced that any one way of doing Tai Chi, be it Chen or Sun or Yang or Fred down the road, I have yet to be convinced that any one style is better than any other, because my feeling is, both from a health point of view and from a martial point of view, if one style was significantly better, duh, that's the style we would all do. So I think Tai Chi is a very broad church indeed. I started teaching
briefly, Robert, briefly.
Sorry, cheeky bugger. I started teaching about 30 years ago, and I, over the years, have tried most of the things that have been mentioned today. The one I haven't done for Tai Chi is the car magnet sign thing. I used to do corporate training, nothing to do with Tai Chi, and we had our car, you know, with signs on the side for that. So the car magnet thing is kind of interesting, but I don't think I drive enough for it to be practical. The other thing which the foldy signs, I don't think I've got one. Throwing everything on the floor. Oh, okay, I haven't. An instructor, a lady called Doris, who I taught Tai Chi to, and she is now an instructor, has a really nice little card which opens out. It's just a piece of paper folded in on itself and in on itself, but it's small. And she uses that to promote her Tai Chi teaching and her dance teaching. She's primarily a dance instructor. And I stole the idea from Doris, and I do have little cards that list the things we do. The only problem with those is A, I forget to carry them on me, and B, when I do carry them on me, I forget to give them out to people. So what I tend to do Sorry, let me just turn blur off. Maybe I won't, because with this computer that I've got, hold on. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to turn blur off. Give me 1 second, lovely people. Video settings.
Well, shall I just summarize while you try and do that? Because what amazes me is the actual depth of knowledge of the group that you've got here. I mean, I must admit, you know, a few people that have been doing it 40, 50 years is amazing. And also the sheer range of what people are doing with fan and stick and sword and things. There's actually a huge amount of knowledge in this group, isn't there? Which uh, is quite awesome actually for a first timer to the group. I had no idea that people were doing Tai Chi 50 years ago. I thought I was doing quite well 40 years ago, but to hear some people that train with Chen Man Ching and things is we should try and capture this knowledge, because we're not going to be around forever, and there's a lot of knowledge in the group.
It's an interesting thing that you say that, because what you're saying is completely valid. I totally get that. But it's also, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, Gordon, at all, it's also, unfortunately, totally irrelevant, because most of the people that come to Tai Chi now are not actually interested. I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't think I'm asked about what I teach, but I don't think I've ever been asked about how long have you been teaching. People don't seem to be interested in the history of the art.
But Robert, I mean,
Yeah.
there are people here, and I've got some as well. We've got students who've been doing it 25 years, and they're still doing it. Now, to me, that says an awful lot, that once you discover these arts, you either leave or you stick with them. So I think what's fascinating, I did a survey of my students fairly recently. I asked them a few questions about their health and well-being, and I managed to do the analysis by how long they've been doing the Tai Chi, from 1 year or less than 5 years or less than 10, or more than 10. And I think what's fascinating, maybe I should share that survey with everybody else, because you might like to ask your own students those same questions. And I've got 113 responses, but there's no reason why we couldn't get another 113 from the people here, of people who've been studying Tai Chi for anywhere between 1 and 40, 50 years. And I think that's the sort of thing that maybe is going to get recognition, because it was surprising, people stay healthy if they do Tai Chi.
Yeah, I mean, oh, that's a really hot topic. That's actually a great topic for another one of these sessions, which is, and I've no idea of the statistics of this, but I know and I'm sure we all have had students that have come to Tai Chi and would absolutely, hand on heart, say it's helped them with a wide variety of things. I regularly mention how I was diagnosed with arthritis nearly 30 years ago now, and how it has only increased a teeny tiny amount over those 30 years. And I suggest that that's because of Tai Chi. But as I always say, that's a very subjective opinion. It is not, it's not a clinical it's not objective, it's not scientific, it's not clinical. It would be interesting to maybe on a separate session investigate that. It's coming back to the yes, Robert, jump in. Always.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, for me, it's 55 years that I started Tai Chi, since I started with Cheng Man Ching.
Yeah,
I thought you were.
What's the PhD in, Robert? Out of interest.
My PhD? Did you say? Physics,
experimental
I've got
physics.
One in
social psychology, so there's some extremes, and a doctor as well. Just a quick point. So
let me
I
just,
don't know
yeah,
how
go
many of
ahead.
you know Bill Douglas, who started World Tai Chi Day, but at the moment he's promoting his second book on the Gospel of Science. And for anybody interested, if you go to Amazon next Saturday, and it's a Saturday only, you can download the Kindle version for free. And it's 600 pages of very, very detailed research on the benefits of mindfulness and meditation and Tai Chi. So if you haven't got that book, just going into Amazon only next Saturday, Bill Douglas, Gospel of Science, you'll be able to download it and read it. And it's got a lot of research over the years of the health benefits of meditation, mindfulness, and Tai Chi.
Yeah, I mean, Bill is genuinely a very, well, I suppose, important person because of World Tai Chi Day, and a very well informed one. I was on a thing a few weeks ago where they had various people talking about health and various modalities. Excuse me. Oh, wouldn't it be great if I dropped dead on camera while we're talking about the health benefits of Tai Chi? Wouldn't that be fantastic? Let's hope I don't do that. Yeah, if that's available next Saturday, I, for one, am just going to make a note about that Saturday. Amazon, Bill Douglas. Yeah,
can we hear what the other
sorry,
Robert wants to say? Because he never finished what he was saying.
I was
I'd be
just
interested
coming back to that, Harrison.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, having made that note, that was going to be what I was saying. Robert, please.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to say that, is there any field, a rhetorical question, is there any field of knowledge historically where there were very many people who really went to a high level? I don't think so. It's very, very usual for the vast number of people to just dabble in whatever it is, and very small number of people to be interested in pursuing to their full limit. And it's not that the people who have the knowledge don't want to show it or communicate it. It's not that the government is suppressing it always. It's that people are not interested in pursuing things very, very much. But I think at this point there are a lot of people who are taking Tai Chi very seriously. At this point, I have my videos on YouTube are advanced stuff. I'm trying to get at everything that I know, not basic stuff. And I've gotten, I think it's 130,000 views of my videos. I've gotten, total. I have 1,700 and something subscribers. I think that's the number. There are a lot of people who are very interested. The comments I get very often the majority of them are on a low level. It's almost like a kind of graffiti or just making a joke. But some of them show that they're really people who are very knowledgeable. They go into great detail explaining things and telling me that I made a mistake and here's why, and giving references. And I think Tai Chi is very. There are a lot of people now, relatively speaking, who have taken Tai Chi very far and want to continue to do so.
I think, Robert, can you put in the chat, Robert, the link to your YouTube channel for everybody? Okay, that would be good for people that are interested. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for anybody else, but I teach a mainly older demographic. And so obviously, if you are teaching people in this day and age who are in their 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, you are teaching people that have the time to study something, whereas 2-3 generations ago, you were probably working until whatever advanced age it was. And when you got to whatever advanced age it was, you were probably so knackered and worn out that you you didn't go to something like Tai Chi. I mean, I think back to my grandparents' generation, and I'm not sure that generation, I'm not sure that I know of anybody of, in fact, even my father's generation, I can only think of a very couple of people that did any kind of exercise. Whereas we obviously, all of us have, apart from Glenda, who obviously is only about 21 or 22, the rest of us are certainly all over 40. You know, we do take our health seriously. On the marketing side, that's the leaflet. It's double-sided. I had 10,000 of these printed about 2 months ago. About 9,000 of them were put door to door by a company that does door-to-door leafleting in a couple of local villages, and we picked up a few students from it. I happened to realize that I had one of those old plastic laminating machines from many years ago. And so I printed out, if I hold it the right way up, I printed out a leaflet for our once a month 4-hour course that we do on the 24 move Tai Chi, the modern short yang thing. And we got those put up in various places, and a lot of our students, you know, took them into shops and said, would you display them? And what was really interesting about that, which surprised the heck out of me, was the 4-hour course attracted and has continued to attract a lot of new people. So people that have never done Tai Chi before suddenly coming in for a 4-hour course. I found that surprising. The website that several of us here have websites. Websites, I think, are becoming, they're the sort of thing, it's a website is a bit like putting your clothes on of a morning. You don't have to put your clothes on of a morning. You can go out in the street completely nude, and you probably get arrested. Some people will look at you and laugh. Well, they certainly look at me and laugh. But you could do it. But putting your clothes on is kind of like the normal, natural thing to do. In exactly the same way, having a website is the normal, natural thing to do, because anybody that wants to come to your classes, one of the things that a high proportion of those people are going to do is what in business terminology would be called due diligence. And it's probably in other terminologies as well. In other words, they want to know that the class is established, that you are, wherever you are, you're going to be there for a while. I'm sure we could all share horror stories of instructors that have taken the money for ongoing courses and ran away. I'm sure some of us could probably share horror stories of groups that make you pay out, and I hope nobody here does this, outrageous amounts for membership. Does anybody here, that's an interesting question, Robert, does anybody here charge for membership of their club? And make that a no, which I think is good, because I've always thought it was a bit iffy. Yeah, I mean, the website, the leaflets, social prescribing, forgotten who mentioned that, because I have picked up a gig recently that was a 6-week, well-paid, 1 hour a week gig from a charity. And that I got because they work hand in hand with the social prescribing person at my local GPs, my local doctors. And I did a presentation for them for the local GP. I picked up some students directly from doing an open session in the GP's surgery. We then picked up a 6-week course with this charity. This is for a group of people who are all different, but they all have some kind of long-term medical condition. And the charity just literally last week has said, can I do another 6 weeks for the same people and anybody else that cares to join in. So obviously working hand in hand with social prescribers, local authority was mentioned. The outdoor sign, I love that as an idea. I've never done that, and I think that's great. The thing that Billy mentioned, Billy, okay, where's Billy? Where's he hiding? Ah, there he is, Billy. You mentioned something which resonated with me because I was talking to a couple of my students about that just on Wednesday. You mentioned about kind of not being a teacher, but sharing with people. And the idea of not being a teacher, I think, is something that a lot of us, to a lesser or greater extent, sort of suffer from. The idea that I think the technical term for it is imposter syndrome, if I remember correctly. It's the idea that, oh, am I good enough to do this? And I think Glenda is brilliant for actually hitting the nail on the head, which is it actually doesn't matter how much you know. As long as you know more than the people you are sharing with, as long as you know more than the people you are teaching, assuming they are beginners. I'm sure, Robert, you must, I hope you have students that are virtually as good as you are. I'm pretty certain that Robert, just like me, would love to have, and please argue with me if I'm wrong, Robert, but you'd love to have students that are better than you. Yeah, I mean, that to me is the highest compliment. He can't be here today, but well, I've got a couple of people who are better than me, that I started them on their Tai Chi journey and they have eclipsed me, and I'm like, yay! And I think that's the highest praise that you can do, that you, yes, Kerrison, please jump in.
I would be very grateful to get some feedback from the group concerning other people's ideas on a couple of issues that I keep bumping up against. One, I mean, when I started Tai Chi 40 years ago, I was in my 20s and I learned it as a martial art. And then it seemed to get, and very few people had heard of Tai Chi. Then it went through this phase of where it was a bit sort of new age and alternative, and it was for people who knitted their own garlic flavored yogurt and so on. And then it sort of become this association with it's old people. And I find that whenever I do some marketing, I'll put it out there, and I get a load of inquiries from people sort of into their 80s, and who actually, you know, I sort of say, look, I'm really sorry, but it's sort of, this isn't for you. You're beyond it now. You know, if you'd come to me 30 years ago, I could have helped you, but now it's too late. Although having said that, the oldest student I had was 89, and she did really well. But the other thing I keep coming up against is people making the mistake of thinking that slow and graceful equals easy. People thinking that, you know, here I am, I'm now falling apart, I'm crumbling, I've got back pain, I'm overweight, I've got a bad heart, so I'll go and do Tai Chi because that's really easy. And then they find that actually there's a lot to it, and that you have to need all the dedication and the commitment, and you have to. I mean, I got good because I practiced an hour every single day from when I started. That's how I got good at it. And people simply don't do that. And I find it immensely frustrating. So people come along, and there's this thing of I'm sort of endlessly explaining to people, well, going to a Tai Chi class is much more like, it's not like going to a fitness class, it's like going to a language class or a musical instrument class, where you go to the lesson to be taught what it is you have to go and practice. And I say to, you know, can you commit to at least just going through the moves, today's moves, just once when you get home before you even take your coat off? And they say, oh yeah, I can do that. And then they don't. And it's just sort of, you know, you're never going to learn if you don't practice, if you don't commit it, if you don't accept the fact that actually there's a lot to this, there's a lot of little detail, a lot of subtleties, a lot of nuance that you have to work on. You're never going to get there. And then people give up. The other thing that I find makes people give up is that life gets in the way, that you know that something will happen and they'll miss a lesson, and then especially if you're teaching a group and you're teaching it as a course, then they feel they fall behind, and then they're struggling, and then they give up. And I've always found that the class numbers dwindle and dwindle and dwindle until you're down to just a few people who really stick at it. So those key things are: one, people thinking that slow and graceful equals easy, and the two, always attracting elderly people. Do other people find the same, and what do you do about it?
Kerrison, one of the
Jump in,
questions
and
I
then Colin.
asked, one of the questions I asked in the survey was, at what age did you start Tai Chi, and at what age do you think people should start Tai Chi? And what was fascinating was whenever they started, they thought people should start 20 years earlier. And so they were saying, actually, this is for the people in their late 30s, early 40s is the ideal time to start. So I think the evidence says that if you're getting the 80-year-olds, unfortunately that's the image, but we need to target maybe the younger people. John's got
Colin.
Yeah.
So my experience is I teach university classes to undergraduate students. So I have regular classes of 18-year-olds. I teach a restorative chair-based Tai Chi class where most people are over 80 and some in their 90s. Now, both those classes are people who were interested in not so much even dipping a toe in the water. They were looking for an exercise class which was safe and accessible for them. Okay, so I've adapted Tai Chi for octogenarians and older, and it's a very successful class. I've also adapted it for 18-year-olds who are too busy living their lives as undergraduate students. And the focus there is, how can you use Tai Chi to manage the immense stress that they come across during their studies, particularly exam time. So I run what I call Tai Chi stress busters. Now, I'm not teaching them Tai Chi form. I do teach traditional Wu style long form and all aspects. But that's not what I teach in most of my classes. Most of my classes are safe and accessible adaptations of Tai Chi as an exercise form for healthy lifestyles. Now, if people want to go on and do what I would call, it's like what Robert was saying. I was a professor, so I was one of an elite group of academics in a UK university, and there were very few of us teaching PhD students and postdoctoral people to a very high level. But some of my best friends are maths professors, but actually in kindergarten they teach the elements of arithmetic. And most people are not like a few people have said, they're not interested in the depth of everything that Tai Chi has to offer. Now, I suppose it depends what you want to do as a teacher. I mean, I call myself a teacher. I have been a professor. Both of those, in my view, are simply sharing their knowledge and experience with people. I don't think you have to say, well, I don't think I'm a teacher. If you share things with people that they don't know, by definition, you're teaching them. So, there's a lot of kind of discussion to be had around this. I suppose what I'm coming down to is, in many ways, it's horses for courses. My primary aim, my primary interest, having grown up and practiced serious martial arts for decades, is nothing to do with martial arts. It's more the benefits that people can accrue by incorporating whatever they can take from Tai Chi into their lives, which makes their lives better, whether it makes them feel better and does nothing more than that, or whether it improves a condition they've got. And many people in my classes swear blind it improves their conditions. When you look at the research, it's actually pretty flipping equivocal. Yeah, most Tai Chi research that proves the benefits of Tai Chi do not compare Tai Chi with other comparable activities. And so, they compare Tai Chi with doing nothing. Well, of course, doing anything's better than doing nothing. Yeah, they compare Tai Chi with walking. Well, the kind of cerebral engagement that you get with Tai Chi is significantly more than the cerebral, activity that you do when you're walking. When you go to a Zumba class, it's a completely different form of exercise and a completely different form of mental engagement than Tai Chi. So it's chalk and cheese, but it's also horses for courses. And I better shut up.
John,
that was great.
Gordon, hold on a minute, Gordon. John wants to jump in. And
I was only gonna say, somebody mentioned a while ago about the age people start Tai Chi. Well, my first Tai Chi class was about 3 weeks after my 60th birthday, and I've been at it for 22 years or so now. I'll let you work that one out. Yeah, most recently, about 6 weeks ago, I had a guy join me who's 65, recommended by his sensei, karate. He came from karate, second dan, black belt, but he got fed up being thumped. So his sensei said, take up Tai Chi. I had a 70-year-old dancer join me quite some while, a few months ago now. But my class range is from, I would say, people in their 40s.
That actually leads me to something I wanted to ask.
Can I just make a point? Yeah,
one second, Gordon. I will come to you immediately. But once Gordon's made his point, can we just go round? The question I would like everybody to answer, not who's your oldest student, but who currently are your youngest students. Yes, Gordon.
Okay, so I'll answer that question. The eldest is 95, but the average age is about 70. But the point I wanted to make after the bit that we've just heard, I've been giving this a lot of thought for the last 6 months or so. I went out to Bali and talked to some of the Tai Chi people out there over towards the end of last year. And there are some really serious people there that do some really excellent work as well. And when I came back, I mean, I've had the benefit of getting a lot of knowledge from a lot of people over a lot of years. And it seemed to me that one of the things that was missing was any sort of structured educational experience that would take people from being a novice beginner up to what I would call a master's level, where they would be able to teach other people to a detail and a quality, which is what I think you need if you're going to get the health benefits. So for the last 4 months, I've been putting together what I think would be a curriculum for a master's program in what I call Tai Chi Gong, which is the combination of Tai Chi and Qi Gong, because I don't think you can teach either of them well without the other. So if anybody...
Sorry, Gordon, 1 second. Thank you, Peter. Nice seeing you. See you again soon. Carry on, Gordon.
Okay. So, I mean, I tend to do two things. I tend to write thought pieces, detailed research notes, and I've started in the last 3 months doing quite a few videos. I'm not up to the stage of Robert and 113 YouTube videos, but I think I'm up to about 24 now, which tend to be Yang style 24 step, a lot of Dao Yin Yang Shen Gong from Professor Zhang in Beijing, who died a couple of years ago, and the sword and the fan forms and the stick form. So I've put videos up of all of those, and what I'm hoping is with a combination of outstanding people, maybe we've got the element of a master's program of Chen Men Ching, Yang style, Wu style, whatever styles there have to be. I happen to know Yang style really well and a bit of Sun, but there seems to be no reason why we couldn't put together a program that would allow people to self-educate without... What they do in the States is they charge for all of these things. And it seems to me that this should be free at the point of, like open source, it should be free at the point of acquisition. So if anybody's interested in helping that project, I'm happy to send them some detailed research papers on what a curriculum would look like for teaching combination Tai Chi Qigong to anybody, and what Bill Douglas is talking about, anybody from the age of 8 up to the age of 98, how they could do it, themselves or in a group. So yeah, let me know.
Yeah, thank you for that, Gordon. Yeah, contact Gordon. He's posted his email address. Can we just go around very quickly? Youngest student, Kerrison, your youngest student currently?
40s. Most of my students are in their 40s or 50s.
Fine. John?
Yeah, no real idea, but I would say 40 to 50.
Right. Billy?
Oh, I have one probably about 30
Right.
years old.
A kid, hey?
Yes,
Robert?
I suppose that.
Robert, your youngest at the moment?
Oh, well, he was 9 years old when he started, and now he's 10. And I was very skeptical, but I kept an open mind. And this kid is amazing. And he's already learned Chinese. I don't know where he learned it, but he knows Chinese. And he's very devoted, and he is not at all distracted. He just is glued to what's going on. And he comes with his father, who also is doing Tai Chi. My oldest students were 100. I had two students who were 100, and one is still alive, and he's now 105. He's not a student anymore, but he's 105, and his mind is absolutely clear. He says he feels he's starting to feel his age. So, and when I taught high school, I had students ranging from 16 to 18 years old. And I had one student who was an 8th grader who came in. But one 16-year-old student said, "I wish I had started this earlier." I wish I had started this earlier.
I hope you smiled benignly and then punched him in the nose. Actually, I used to say that on my martial arts website. I used to say I started martial arts at age 17, and then I had in brackets late starter. And yeah, I must admit, I used to feel that I wish I'd got there earlier. What I think that highlights, I recently picked up a family, and I now teach regularly a family of 4. Mother, father, and 2 children, boy and a girl, 13 and 11. And they came to me. It's not something I have ever really thought about until recently. And I think that's a really bad reflection on me, and maybe a bad reflection on some other, obviously not all of us, but some other Tai Chi teachers, that we don't really actively consider throwing the net out perhaps as wide as it could be thrown out. I totally agree that if people come to you with multiple concerns and issues at an advanced stage in life, their journey is much more difficult. I teach people, I will teach anybody that wants to learn. But yes, there are limitations to what any of us can do. But I do think that some of those limitations are self-imposed by the students, people who kind of look at Tai Chi and think, oh, I would love to do that, but I can't. I'm too old, I'm too fat, whatever. But I wonder if we as students, we as teachers are also a bit guilty of maybe, not in our pamphlet saying, I don't know if do I say anywhere, all ages welcome? I don't think I do. Naughty Robert. By the way, I've just discovered that Beeley is actually trying to grow into a tree. That was tree pose I saw there, wasn't it, Beeley?
I'm just trying to stretch.
Very sensible. Very sensible. Is there anything else to be said on the subject of actually promoting what we do? Yes, Robert.
I just have one thing to say, and that is that it was Gordon who was talking about, I think, students who leave early, or it was John, that they miss a class and then they don't want to come back. And that is, the main thing is the fear of making mistakes and looking foolish and being behind others. And that comes from the Industrial Revolution, which started schools teaching people to be on an assembly line on which you can't make a mistake because it can ruin the car or whatever. And so that's what we're taught, and it's ingrained in us. But making mistakes is the only way to learn, or the main way of learning. And so I tell my students, I said, if you go home and you can't remember anything, just make up something, do anything you want, and then we'll take it to the next level. Don't worry about making mistakes. If you do it, they'll say, I didn't practice because I didn't want to do it wrong. And then I talk about that. But that's so important that they not have this fear of making mistakes. That's no mistake that you make with Tai Chi is going to do anything serious. It's not going to burn down your house. It's not going to, etc.
I hope that's not the voice of experience. Colin and then John. Yes, Colin.
I mean, I support that fully. I mean, when I'm running my classes, I'm always saying, for goodness sake, stop being so flipping serious. I want you to play at the puzzle of trying to make this shape, because when you play, you learn quickly. It's proven in pedagogic research that playful learning is the deepest and most engaging kind of learning you can do. And learning by rote teaches bugger all. Learning by play teaches everything. So, I'm always saying, for goodness sake, be curious, be playful. And like you say, Robert, you don't have to remember anything. As long as I remember it, I can remind you. Okay, if they're playing, then they're getting benefit. And if they're, I ask them how they feel at the beginning of the class, and then I ask them how they feel at the end of the class. And if they've played in the class, they always feel better, regardless of the quality of their Tai Chi. I think the essence of what we should be doing is to help people feel better, not do better, because if they feel better, they will automatically do better.
One of the things that one of the many things I witter on about is the difference between Tai Chi for health and Tai Chi for wellness. Tai Chi for health is doing Tai Chi as something that will hopefully improve conditions that you have. It will prevent you from getting conditions that you don't yet have. Tai Chi for wellness is completely about what goes on in the mind. You can be given by your doctor 3 days to live, and you're not obviously well. But you can be not obviously healthy, my apologies, but you can be given 3 days to live, and your mental approach to that can be one that is full of wellness. Wellness is how you interpret your life. And I believe that Tai Chi is great for health, but I think it's even better for that quality that I would determine as wellness. In other words, how you feel. And I think the other thing about Tai Chi is I always tell my students, always remember, Tai Chi is an individual exercise that we just happen to do in a group. And that hopefully stops them having that, oh, look, I've got to be better than him, or the thing about missing a class. I mean, I'd missed 2 years of classes with one of my instructors, went back after 2 years. I was stupidly so nervous. The instructor, to his immense credit, welcomed me back as if I'd been there the last week. That was a huge learning point. Life gets in the way. John, your camera's gone.
Yeah, I don't quite know what happened there, but I do seem to have vanished. We've sort of moved on a bit, really. I was only going to agree with Robert that telling students that mistakes don't matter, and I'm always saying to my people, look, you're going in one direction. You've got to go in the other direction. You don't know how to get there. Forget it. Just turn around and go in the other direction. and so reinforce this all the time. But it is right. They do worry about making mistakes. They do think they're going to look like an idiot. And I think getting over that is really a big part of teaching Tai Chi, to be honest with you.
Robert, I disagree with you about the individual and the group. I think when a group has been doing it together for a long period of time and they're good at it, something very special happens when they do a form together. And there's some videos that I can show you that demonstrate that. There is an extra energy that you get when you work as a community.
Oh,
as a group.
totally! I totally agree
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that once you've started to get it, I think as a raw beginner, you have to not look at, or not as a raw beginner, but as a beginner, you have to not look round and compare yourself with others. But I do agree that a group dynamic, it's why if you turn up to a class where you normally have, say, 20 students, and you go to that class and you've only got 5 students, it's a different class.
But the other thing is, I say a lot to my students, we're seeking peace, not perfection. I think the whole competition Tai Chi has actually done us a disservice because people are seeking perfection, and that's not what it's about for me. It's about peace. So I think there's that element. And there was another thought I had, but it's gone. So it'll come back.
David, I can see your hand is raised.
Yes, a couple of things. I think that one of the as Colin said earlier, that really human beings learn best in a state of joy. We learn deep, we learn easy, we learn through the sublime when we're in a state of joy. And when we're in a state of fear where, oh, we're doing something wrong, I need to be corrected. And then what happens, and I've seen in certain classes, I've seen certain people do like overcorrection. And so they end up with people who are doing the form dead right, with the emphasis on dead. There's no internal joy. There's no internal connection or energy in some of those circumstances. And I've seen it. And yet I've seen other people who might not be doing it so perfectly, but the quality of the movement has so much sweetness and tenderness and light in it that and their joy, that is powerful. And I tell my students, if you're not making 20 or 30 mistakes a day, you're not living. You know, you got to give up that idea of you can't fail if you don't try. You have to give it your best shot, and then if you didn't make the best, then do your best the next time. But you do your best, as Master Joe used to say, don't overdo it. A little progress every day, right? So, and just going back, my youngest student is 8. She came to me, just kind of harkening back, so I didn't jump in on that. She was sent to me by her doctor because she has seizures. She has epilepsy. And she's been doing the Tai Chi now for about 10 weeks, I think. No, maybe more than that. About 16 weeks, I guess. And she's doing amazing. And she does everything right along with everybody else. Great concentration.
Bye, John. Bye, Colin. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Bye, John.
So I think the key for us as teachers is to, in a sense, instill within our students these things. 1, ask questions. It's the question that enlightens, not the answer. 2, take joy in what you're doing, because the sense of one of the major things that Tai Chi does overall is increase well-being, a sense of well-being. People feel better in their minds, and their movements improve as a result of that. Their balance improves. I mean, I've seen it with my Parkinson's client, and they all feel so much better. One guy just came into me and said, your class it helps me get out of bed in the morning. He says, thank you so much, because now he can get up. He has something to do. He has something to do for himself that is helpful. So learning, it's like someone said it earlier about music and language. If you come to Tai Chi class and you think of it like a language class, or a music class, you wouldn't expect on the first day to sit down and play Mozart unless your name was Amadeus and you're back in those days, you know? So the key is that it's a practice that is about improving, but so often perfection, as I think Gordon said, perfection is the enemy of the good, is the saying, right? So let's get the good first. Then you can move on to perfection. But if you go from 0 to 1,000, you gotta hit some markers along the way, and you got to make some mistakes in order to understand and allow your consciousness to transform. Because it's also, Tai Chi is a brain exercise. It's a neurological exercise. It transforms how your neurological functions occur. In fact, Grandmaster Chen, who was studied on with electrodes implanted, found that all of his brainwave patterns, all of them, were enhanced through the practice of Tai Chi. So we do something when we present to our students that is a way of transforming them personally, societally, and environmentally, as a way of changing the way they interact with their environment through awareness in their own inner space. So that's what becomes quite dynamic.
Robert, I need to go fairly soon, but there's one question that I'd like to ask, because this is a very special audience, even with reduced numbers. And it's a question that I've been posing myself recently and I'm trying with my students. There's qualities that are described in the classic texts that you get when you do Tai Chi every day for 20 years. And those qualities are well documented. And just for the last 3 or 4 months, I've been trying to teach my students how to accelerate to get those qualities so that they don't have to do it every day for 10 or 20 years. They can get it after 1 or 3 years. And it seems like I'm having some success teaching the qualities. And I'd be interested in maybe another session, because I'd really love to get people's insights that if we've got students that have been doing it 30 years and they're doing it really, really well, and they've got those qualities that are exhibited, is there some way that, for instance, I could teach my 2 or 3 year students been doing it 2 or 3 years, those same qualities, so they don't have to wait 20 years. And I can share some insights because it seems to work. So maybe the next session.
I was just going to say, would you be interested in presenting on that in the next session, Gordon? Would you lead?
I'd love, yeah, Kerrison's.
Yes.
That's really interesting to hear, because the whole system I've designed is to make it so much quicker and faster and easier to gain the health benefits, because there are so many people who, you know, your options are, right, you can dedicate your lives to Tai Chi, as all of us have done, and you can read and you can study and you're 100% committed and go into it in depth. Or you can have you take the benefit of the experience of someone like any of us here to say, right, these are the footsteps, these are the very, very minimum, this is the absolute minimum that you really must do in order to be able to get these health benefits. So I tend to market on the basis of these are the health benefits that you will gain by doing this, rather than the thing of come along and learn Tai Chi. I also have that in the background for those students who go through the process and get the basics of it on that accelerated program, whereby they can get it very, very quickly. I can then say to them, right, well, if you want, you can then come along and learn much more advanced Tai Chi, which is going to take you a lot longer to learn, and you're going to have to be much more committed. But the basics, the fundamentals, are to learn it really, really quickly, which is why I've designed this hugely, massively simplified 12-move sequence. I think if I make it any more simple than it is, it will no longer be Tai Chi.
Right, can I suggest, Gordon and Kerrison, could you please both email me?
Yeah.
And then what we will do is we will sort out a little, and anybody else, I mean, we'll open it up to others, but if we give like you a 10-minute spot, Gordon, and you a 10-minute spot, Kerrison.
Dave's got his hand up as well.
There's an old story about the student comes to the master and says, "Master, how long will it take me to learn Tai Chi?" And the master said, "It'll take you a year." And he says, "Well, what if I work really, really, really hard?" And the master says, "Well, then it'll take 10 years."
Yeah. Yeah. We'll try and find some. Yeah, we got to go. Did Robert have a point as well, or is he on his way for his supper?
Robert?
Yes, I totally agree that the teaching can be accelerated, where people can get higher level things much earlier on, and I've devoted myself to that. So I'd like to be a part of that.
Brilliant.
The other
Brilliant.
thing, absolutely, there's no question about that. And I have students who've been with me only a few years who already are exhibiting stuff that's beyond what some of the students I see have been studying for 50, who have been studying for 50 years. I'm bragging, I know.
Good.
But it's true, it's true.
Sorry,
The
Robert,
other
go on.
thing I want to say about mistakes, I just want to say this one thing, and that is, when I was teaching high school, AP physics, basic college physics, I'd be at the blackboard and make a mistake. And I'd turn around to the students and I'd say, "I know there's a mistake here." And the class would just be alert as can be. And I'd say, "How do I know there's a mistake?" And that would be a whole subject. Then I'd say, "Where is the mistake?" And then I'd ask them if they wanted to think about it, or should I tell them? And they said, "No, we want to think about it." And then I'd say, "Well, I still don't know where the mistake is." And then I'd see it and I'd say, "Okay, now I know the mistake. Should I tell you?" Then, etc. And that would be the most amazing teaching session, because they would never make that mistake ever, because it would be so, they'd be so connected to what was going on at that moment. And the idea that the teacher can make mistakes is so important, and not to try to hide them. And one of my teachers said the definition of a master is somebody who can hide their mistakes. And I felt, no, it's the other way around. You have to tell your students. So if I do something and I say, I'll say to them, "I don't think I did that very well. I'd like to do that again." And I tell them what I did that I don't like. Because they have to, one, be able to not feel that they're going to be, that they have to be perfect, and that the teacher is perfect, which makes them feel, well, I'll never get this because I know I can't be. And two, to see all these things, to see what's going on, and it doesn't matter who it is. And a few days ago, a student corrected me on something that I was doing. He said, "You're doing this." It was a big breakthrough for me. It was a big breakthrough for me. And that's what you want, to have that dialogue and not feel that there's any shame in the mistake. It's now it opens things up. It gives a whole new dimension to everything.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you can't teach if you're not learning. Yes, Kerrison.
Just a couple of points. One, Robert, it's very interesting hearing what you have to say, and your wisdom and experience is great to absorb some of that. Interesting hearing about you being a physicist, because one of the major steps on my own pathway was, as a teenager, reading The Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra, which I don't know if you're familiar with. The Tao of Physics is a fascinating book. It's really very interesting. But another twist of that was that Fritjof Capra, who wrote it, was taught Tai Chi by Master Lu Si-Ching, who was my original instructor back in Ealing in West London, Lu Su-Chi, and which is great. But the very last thing, the main emphasis, the main point of this webinar was all about marketing, wasn't it? But we've had a wonderful ramble on lots of different things. But on the subject of marketing, I did put together a very short video, which I put out on Facebook, which I did get a very good response of driving people to my website. And I got a very good response from that. And some of the key factors in that are: one, identifying the group who you want to speak to. The second is showing that you understand the problems that they face. The third is showing how you are providing the solution to their problems. And if you're interested, I've actually got it here on my phone. I could do it as a screen share, but if you're interested, I can see if I can play it on my phone. Should we do
Yeah,
it?
go for it. Go for it.
Hang on. Hang on. Hang on.
I'm assuming it's not 3 hours long.
Hang on. Sorry, I'll start again.
While you do that, The Tower of Winnie the Pooh is also a really good book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Tater Piglet too.
Oh, it's coming out in mirror writing.
No, it's
Can you
okay,
see it
Eric.
okay?
No, it's
It's
okay.
working.
We can see it. Very good.
Right, you can go first next time.
Could you all read that okay? Because
Yes,
Yeah, we
it
did.
was
It was
mirror
fine.
It's
writing.
fine.
Yeah, that was
Right,
good.
okay, right,
It was
good.
good.
So that's the, as I was saying, the key things of identify your audience, who it is you want to speak to, show that you understand their problems, and show how what you are offering will solve their problems for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
Very
I got a good response from that on Facebook. Loads of people going to the website, and then I picked up a lot of students from that.
Oh, good. Well done. Okay, I think let's call it a day or a night or a whatever it is wherever you are. It's what's the time here? 6:45 here. So I would just like to say thank you to everybody. A really good interactive session. And thank you. And Carrison, Gordon, Robert, if you like, thinking of next month, send me an email.
How do I get your email? Is it on the email?
Oh, it's a secret. I don't tell anybody. It's Robert at. Hold on, let me put it in the chat for you.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
1 second to find where the chat has gone. It's Robert at Agar-Hutton Academy.co.uk, and I think there we go, something like that. Can you see that? The capital R at the beginning, ignore that. It can be lowercase. I don't know if that was just my fat fingers.
Robert at ahtca.co.uk.
Yeah, stands for
brilliant.
Agar-Hutton Tai Chi Academy. You see, I'm not the most creative marketing person the world has ever seen.
No,
Okay.
that's fine. Yeah, brilliant. Nice one.
Thank you, everybody.
Nice to meet you all.
Bye.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.